So let's, without further ado, get into some of the demos here today. All right, here we are in the office.com portal for our Office 365 subscription. As usual, you can see all of the different Office 365 applications that are available to us through this particular subscription. And over on the top right here, we see the icon for Flow. And let's just load up the Flow app here in a separate tab. And if it's the first time you've used Microsoft Flow, Office 365 is going to give you some prompts and some basic help documentation that you can run through. And there's a few different areas of the Flow app here on the left-hand menu. You have your home screen, you have the approvals screen, you have My Flows, which is the list of all the flows you create once they're saved and running. There's a lot of templates. We'll check that out in just a minute. Connectors is for more advanced flows as you connect different services, services like MailChimp or some other productivity solutions, other databases and data sources. Those will show up here in connectors and data. And then there's a great help section under the Learn heading. A lot of documentation and a lot of help. Microsoft is putting a lot of energy behind supporting Flow and helping users get started with creative solutions here. So be sure to check out that Learn tab for help documentation and quick start guides. Moving on to the Connectors tab here, you can see all the connections that Microsoft has built into Microsoft Flow. Some of these are first-party applications, Microsoft products, and part of Office 365. And some of these are third-party software services, social medias, and other internet services. So let's just quickly scroll through these. You may see some products that you're already using, perhaps different CRM or accounting packages that are hosted in the cloud. There's different storage and different utilities. A lot of test and dev tools here as well. Some design tools. Again, lots of social media. Things like Dropbox if you're not storing your files on OneDrive. Let's see what else. GitHub if you are developing code. Freshdesk and FreshBooks if you're helping customers. There's even integration for Google products, so if you're not quite fully on Office 365 and you do want to get attachments and calendar invites, those types of things over into Office 365, you can create flows. And that's really good if you have a personal account that you do need to sync or import data into your work account. Instagram, Instapaper, a couple commonly used tools on the web, LinkedIn, MailChimp for marketing, and then we can see here some more Microsoft and third-party solutions. I'm just going to quickly scroll to the bottom of the list here. So hopefully you did see something that is sparking your interest, some of the third-party tools here that you can use with Microsoft Flow. Okay, let's get to the fun stuff now. Here I am in the My Flows tab here in the Flow application. We're going to click on the New button in the top ribbon, and we're going to make an automated flow. So this is something that's going to happen behind the scenes without us triggering it. This window here is an opportunity for you to name your flow and sort of filter down some of the triggers that you want to use. This is sort of a wizard-driven section, if you will. We're going to skip this right now. We're just going to open a blank canvas, and we're going to start searching for some of the different components that we want to use. So the scenario here is for the marketing department, and we want to create an Excel list of all of our competitors' RSS feeds. So I can remember back in the days when I did a lot more marketing activities, the boss always wanted a report of what our competitors were doing, and a good source of information was always competitors' blogs. So in this case, we're going to create one flow with one competitor's blog's RSS feed being transferred into an Excel table in our team OneDrive. And certainly you can replicate this and have more than one competitor's RSS feeds going into the same Excel document. So maybe you can review it on a weekly or monthly basis to see what your competitors are up to. So here in Flow, we're just going to use the RSS trigger. And so when a feed item is published, if we click onto that, it's going to bring it into our Flow canvas here. And this is where we input the RSS feed URL. And whatever that happens to be, you can get that off of your competitors' blogs and continue on with that. This is just a bogus one just for the purpose of my demo here. And we're going to create a new step. And again, back to the notions of triggers and actions. The RSS feed item being published by our competitor is the trigger. And now here we have the ability to add different actions. What exactly do we want to have happen? So I'm just going to search Excel online. It takes a minute or two for the different actions and results here to pop up. But here we see we have some choices between different online services where we want that RSS feed information to go. So we're going to take the Excel Online. Be sure to use the one that notes business in brackets. The Excel Online with OneDrive in brackets, that's more of the personal account. If you're using Office 365 through your business or provided by your company, you want to use the business selection. And now we have all of the actions that are available to us in Excel Online Business that we want to have happen when the RSS feed gets updated. In this case, we are going to add a row into a table. And Flow is going to sign us into Office 365 into our OneDrive and Excel Online accounts. And now we can start searching down for the document. I've gone ahead in time before the demo started today and made a document in the OneDrive. I made a file, just a blank Excel file called competitor RSS feeds.slsx. And I made a table inside of that file, just a blank space to put data. And once Flow picks that up, we will add it here into table 2. And now here we have the chance to add some of the information from the RSS feed. Along here on the right hand side we can see all of the things, all of the different titles, summaries, published links, feed ID, all of those items that come from the RSS feed flow through the RSS feed. We can save into our Excel document. So in this case, let's just take the published on date and put that into column 1. And let's take the feed summary into column 2 and the feed title into column 3. So that's the information that we want to glean from our competitors' RSS feeds. And we're going to punch that into 3 different columns in an Excel document saved in this user's OneDrive. Now this is a relatively simple flow that we've built here. So when something happens on a competitor's RSS feed, it's going to be scraped and dropped into an Excel in our OneDrive. But just a couple of things to note here as you are building your flow and experimenting with the tool. There's 2 really helpful tools up here in the top ribbon as you're building in the flow canvas. There's the flow checker. That'll give you any errors or warnings as you're adding actions and the different items that you want to see. If you're missing something or if something doesn't quite check out right, the flow checker will let you know. And then the test function as well. This is great if you are doing flows that are not automatic, where you want something to happen, say an email being flagged or receiving an email or an attachment from a particular person. You can go ahead and test the flow here without actually receiving an email or flagging something in Outlook. You can use demo data, or you can use data from previous runs if it's something that you've been testing for a short period of time. So just take note of those couple of tools there up at the top in the ribbon as you build out your flow. And just like working on documents on your PC, you're going to want to save often as well. As you're making changes to your flow, it will do its best to save automatically, but before running some of the major commands here, Flow will prompt you to resave your document. Let's just go back here to the main page. If there's a problem with the flow, you'll get some history here as well. You'll get to see some of the analytics, how many times the flow has run, for example. We can see that we're connected to an RSS feed and we're connected to our Excel Online account. If you were to add Twitter or MailChimp or other third-party services, those sort of sign-ons would be tracked here, and if anything changed with your password, you'd get a notification there. Back to my flows here. This is sort of our main page for the different flows that we're going to create. You can always come back and edit. You can share these with other colleagues, and we do have more commands like exporting the flow as a zip, as a JSON file. You can see the run history. Here's a handy one. You can turn it off, or if it's not working at all, you can just throw it in the trash. Okay, let's hop over to OneDrive really quickly. And I want to show you something here as far as what that RSS feed looks like in our OneDrive. So I'll just click on the OneDrive icon and load up my OneDrive. So you can see here that competitor RSS feeds Excel document is just tucked in nicely into my OneDrive. And since we're here in OneDrive, I'll show you another really handy tip that actually combines OneDrive, documents, and Flow. Let's say, for example, we have an important press release or any type of important documentation that you need management approval on first. If we check off that item and we use the Flow command within the OneDrive application, we can request sign up. And since this is the first time that we're going to use this Flow in this account, it's just going to create the flow for us behind the scenes. It's going to do some signing in into different services to make this all happen. And we can choose our approver and we can add a message. So in this case, Alan Steiner, he's the VP of Corporate Marketing. He's the fellow that's going to want to approve of our important press release. And you can add a message there, whatever you need to do. So without even touching your email application, without attaching anything, without doing anything in Outlook or your email client, we have sent the important press release off to Alan. And I will show you shortly what it looks like on his end to approve this important press release. So here we are in a different browser. I've opened up the Alan profile and logged in. Now, two places to show you where he'll receive the approval notice from Spencer, the other user. First one is here in the Outlook web app. You can see that Alan's received an email, and you can see it's coming from Microsoft Flow as an approval. And we can see who it's coming from, when it was sent. We can see the comment here that Spencer added. Hey, Alan, can you check this for me? Here's the document. We can open it up right here in our Outlook web app. And we've got two simple buttons. We have an approve and we have a reject button. And then we can add a reason, and that's completely optional if you want to add a reason why the doc was approved or rejected. Now, adding something in here and clicking submit in your email will trigger sort of the reverse flow, and this will actually go back to Spencer and let him know that yes, it was approved or it was rejected. Now, the second place that Alan can deal with this is over in the Flow website. We can see here I'm on the Approvals tab, and under the Received section in the ribbon from Spencer here, we are saying please approve the important press release. We can jump in here and email the requester. We can reassign this. Perhaps it needs to go to a higher level of management, and we can jump in here and see the document just the same way we would in the email. So if we want to approve or reject, we have that ability here right in the Flow app. And so in this case, Spencer didn't quite write what Alan has wanted, and we're going to reject this now. And we'll flip back over in a second to see that Spencer will receive a rejection notice on this document. And here we are now back as Spencer, back in his email inbox in Outlook Online. And we can see Microsoft Flow has sent us an automatic email back and letting us know that Alan Steiner did not approve our file. And here we see the comment from Alan that he typed into the Flow approvals section. Now, one important thing to note, I am showing you this on a desktop, but if Alan was on the go, if he had the Flow app installed on his Android phone or iPhone, he'd be able to approve or reject that document from anywhere on the go, as long as he had the Flow app and any supporting Office 365 apps like Word, Excel, or PowerPoint installed on his phone as well. So Alan does not need to be at his desk to approve things for Spencer, and Spencer can continue to do his job. You know, perhaps he needs to get that press release out to the media as soon as possible. So just want to emphasize one thing as we flip back to the Flows tab here in the browser. I want to mention that it does not have to be Microsoft only documents, does not need to be Word, Excel, or PowerPoint files. It can be PDFs, text documents, just about anything that you would store in your OneDrive and would need approval on. You can build that into part of your workflow. One common example is perhaps the marketing department will mock up some images or brochure files in graphic specific file formats. You can share those out as part of your workflow. Depending on mobile apps that support that, management may not be able to review those on the go, but rest assured that, again, anything you store in your OneDrive, if you do want it to be part of your approval process, you can use that behind the scenes flow. So coming back here to the flows, now we see that the request sign-off flow has been added to our list of flows. Again, the first time we ran that, it's gone and built it behind the scenes for us. We've got a little OneDrive icon here, and we can see all the different information if you had wanted to come in and review, turn off, or delete that flow. So let's move on with our demo. Let's try a templated scenario now. I'm just going to click into the templates here. Again, a lot of different templates with a variety of different first-party and third-party applications that Microsoft has built. And in this scenario, I want to show you the notion of a push button and the idea with using Teams and using a chatbot to trigger your flow. So we're just going to search for a template, and I'm just going to search for the word block, and we're going to pick the first one here, block out my Office 365 calendar for an hour. So this has probably happened to you. You want to focus on something for an hour, but your colleagues see that you don't have anything in your calendar, so they send you messages on Skype for Business, and they send you messages in Team, and they otherwise see that your status light is green, so they want to come and do work with you or come chat with you. Here's one thing that we can press a button or talk to a chatbot and block out our calendar and appear busy for a 1 hour period. So let's just go ahead and click continue. Again, the template's going to go sign us into the variety of tools that we need. In this case, it's Outlook. And we see here that we have a manual trigger of a flow. And we have the opportunity to pick our calendar. In this case, we're just going to use our general calendar. You can change the subject if you want, but we're going to leave it as calendar blocked from Microsoft Flow. And we're going to take the start time of UTC now. And you can see we have an expression builder here in Flow. Now we're getting a little bit more technical, and there's a lot of learning resources available if you want to get into these expressions, but we're just going to take the time now, and we're going to add 1 hour. So you can see what's actually happening here in the expressions behind the scenes as part of this template, and we're just going to save it. And that's all done, and we'll go back to my flows. And you can see now that we do have the block out my Office 365 calendar for an hour, and we have the run button here, which we'll go ahead and click. And we're going to get just a notification that the flow is running. Okay, and we've successfully started that flow, and we'll just click done. And let's hop over now to Spencer's calendar, and you can see as soon as we come over, we're getting a reminder that the calendar is blocked off. But just to show you the calendar here, we can see that the calendar is blocked for 1 hour. All right, now let's have some fun with the mobile side of Microsoft Flow. I've got an Android phone here that I'm just screencasting from. I've got the Flow app already installed from the Google Play Store. Alternatively, if you are on an iPhone, iOS device, you can do the same from the Apple Store. Now, one thing to note, the only difference between Android and iOS is the notion of pinning buttons to your home screen, and I'll show you that in just one moment. Let's go ahead and launch the Flow application. In this demo, I've already logged in, so we can skip that step. If you do want to log in, the neat thing there is any of your approval requests will pop up as notifications, or as the default notifications on your phone. So here's the two flows that we've already created today. We've got a request sign off, and we've got our blockout calendar. If we had any approvals in the workflow, we could click on approvals here and they would show in, but we are up to date on our approvals. We can hit browse and browse through, again, those templates, the buttons, and the featured flows that we can create right on our mobile device. We can go into our flows here, and manage them as well. And certainly we have account preferences as well. But I think the most interesting part of the Flows mobile app, especially on Android, is the notion of buttons. So again, anything that can be launched quickly, for example, our blockout calendar example, you can create a button here in the Flows app and trigger that just by tapping on the button on your smartphone, and that will run behind the scenes. Or because this is Android, we have a little bit more flexibility. We can actually go ahead and add the widget to our home screen, and we'll just filter down to the flow. And by adding the flow widget to our home screen, we can select that blockout button, and now we have this button right on our home screen. So without even going into the Flow app, we can still run flows, and that's quite handy if you want to have the calendar blockout, if you're running late to a staff meeting and you want to program a flow to let all of your employees know, or when you close a big sale on the road and you want to let the sales team know. Really, the sky and the imagination are your limit, but rest assured that you can easily get to these flows from your Android home screen. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you today is the notion of talking to Microsoft Flow through a chatbot. So here we are in Microsoft Teams. If you haven't checked out our webinar on Microsoft Teams, be sure to check that out for some background information on how to use Teams and how to get started. But in this case, we're going to go to the More Commands button, and we are going to find more apps or more add-ons available for Microsoft Teams. We're going to click over into the Bots menu, and Flow should be somewhere here at the top, and we're just going to add that for me and install it, and that will take just a second or two to complete. And now you can see here we have the bot and we have the app open. Let's go ahead and open the bot. And right away the bot gives you some suggestions as far as what the commands are and what it can do. So we have a learn more command, we have a list flows command, we have a run flow command, and we have a describe flow command. So you can type in sort of using your keyboard, or you can use your voice, or we can just click on the list flows button and press enter. And behind the scenes, the bot is going to give us some information, and it can run flows that are triggered on a schedule, triggered manually with no inputs. And sort of by default, we are seeing here that we have the flow available to us, the block out my Office 365 calendar for 1 hour flow. And if at any point you get stuck here talking to the Flow bot, you can just drop on down to the text box and click on the What Can I Do button. But for example, let's run flow 1. And again, that's picking here from the list. If you had more, it would list them 2, 3, 4, and so on. But let's run flow 1, and let's see what the bot is going to do. So already we get a return command that done. Your flow for the block my Office 365 calendar has been started. So behind the scenes, again, the Flow bot is going to run that flow, and our calendar is going to be blocked for a 1 hour period of time. So as our organizations start to rely on Microsoft Teams more and more, this is certainly a good way to utilize Teams and Flow together without having to leave the Teams application. Now, I'm showing you this here in the web app of Microsoft Teams, but this will work in the desktop and mobile apps as well. Again, think of the Flowbot as just another personal digital assistant that you can have do your bidding for you as you get busy throughout the day. So I hope I have sparked your imagination as to how you can use Microsoft Flow to automate your day and take some of the monotony out of repetitive tasks. Here's a quick webinar recap on the information we covered today. The Microsoft Flow is included with your Office 365 subscription. It is a no developer needed way to create automated tasks and workflows. It's great for data capture, great for folks in the marketing department, but can be used pretty well company-wide to get things done quicker. It can send notifications and get approvals. You can create buttons for your mobile phone, and you can talk to the Flowbot in Microsoft Teams to save you time, and you don't need to switch applications as frequently. Now, we also covered the growing ecosystem of third-party connectors. So as you build out your Microsoft Flow, you can connect it to third-party tools that are outside of the Office 365 family.